Good day, everyone. It is Tuesday, World's Toughest Mudder week, and I got on the phone with Giles, the CEO of Tough Mudder, over in the UK. He's headed over here shortly. We wanted to talk a little bit about World's Toughest Mudder, and because I care about you so much, YouTube viewer, I got this down to just 26 minutes. I cut out about 10 minutes of hilarious chatter about our kids and school and UK holidays and flights and whether he prefers aisle or window. So that'll be saved for probably a podcast update at some point. But I wanted to get this video to you to talk about important changes, about reading the rules, and what he thinks is important for you to know. Someone's doing some work here. Anyhow, check out this video with Giles. Away we go.
That said, I do hope that American air travel is not too joyful for people. I see some tropical storm activity coming in over the weekend.
Well, that's another thing that you get to inherit is the WTM gods don't care where we are on the latitude and longitude line. They don't care where we are in what month. If they can bring the weather, they will.
Finalized tropical characteristics and is now starting to take more of a classic shape. That center of circulation off of our shoreline. Maximum sustained winds here at 50 miles an hour, pressure at 994 millibars.
Which, do you know, in a way I kind of like. No one kind of gets onto Facebook and pulls out their pictures from the warmest, least challenging, most comfortable WTM ever, right? I remember that moment when it was just epically challenging, and it does look like it might be mild again this year. So I'm sure there will be stories that abound.
Yeah, I mean, you're the one that said let's make cage crawl scary again, which I appreciate. And yes, regardless of the year, 24 hours plus of a physical activity that includes moving your entire body over and under things and running is a difficult challenge. With something like cold or rain or windstorms, it's that much more epically challenging.
And there are plenty of water obstacles. There's a natural water crossing. It's going to be a cold one.
Yeah. So we saw the map. And
the map or the map? Because I had a lot of fun releasing the map.
Well, I rather enjoyed it, and I really enjoyed the somewhat Spartan-esque names. But then the question was, is it all a ruse, though? Is the map going to look nothing like this at all? And it turns out the placement is about the same, and the names were mostly accurate with some fun changes, like I want to say an unheard of 39-foot slide.
Well, that is coming. That is going to be good. You'll be able to see that on the ground. There's just this massive sense of fear within the Tough Mudder community at the moment that Joe and Spartan are just going to take over Tough Mudder. And despite people standing up and being like, I overcome all fears, or except that fear of Spartan, that's too much. So I can't help myself. I'm going to continue to shamelessly poke the community's fear on this one until we move past it. And of course, I quite enjoy poking Joe.
Well, Mudder's always been a little cheeky, which is what we like about it, right? And I was speaking to someone just last night about this, and if you're from the old days, and I am, it started in 2013. Oh, now that Reebok's involved, Spartan's gone downhill. Oh, Rakuten got involved. See where this is going? So, guys, I can tell you, before Giles was even on here, that Tough Mudder runs its own ship. I'm not sure, I hate to say this, but I'm not sure Joe could name one Tough Mudder obstacle. So I'm really not worried that he's infiltrating. Now, if you guys make burpees a penalty, as kind of a taking the piss type of situation, that's fine. I'm okay with that. But I doubt Joe had little to do with designing Block Ness this year or anything of the like.
Indeed, Joe was obviously causing a little bit of stir in the community yesterday, giving it large on burpees and other bits and pieces. And I think the thing that Joe gets right in all of this is we do like comfort as human beings. We often do shy away from the challenge. And so I can only imagine that that's the reason Joe and Ryan are not coming to World's Toughest Mudder this year. Because Joe can say, right, he can say burpees are too tough for Tough Mudder, but we all know WTM is tougher than his toughest. I'm just going to leave that out there for you to ponder.
Well, I'm one of the first who said, I'm not sure a 24-hour Spartan is going to work. And I was at the first one in Iceland, and I was specifically brought because Mike Morris, in his infinite wisdom, said, you've been around a lot of these events. What do you think we could do to maybe make the atmosphere X, Y, and Z? And it's kind of like, now that I think about it, it's kind of like men and women and saying, well, let's try to be more alike. And it's like, it's actually great how different we are, right? And so what Spartan does really well, because I've been to amazing Spartan events all over the world, right? But the 24-hour vibe didn't quite fit. And I think specifically for that product, the Ultra, as they call it, that you have amazing racers, typically different than your North American Series or Global Series winners. These guys like, Josh Fiore and, who find their way to win a 50K event, like, let them do a 50K world championship. That seems like the move. And not necessarily do listen, I love Joe. Joe's a friend of mine. Joe's been to my house. He sat at my table. I've sat at his,
I hope you gave him a beer. He enjoys beer. Don't let him.
We did not get him a beer. But if you get Joe on a call, it's like, it's like dial up the phrase you want, right? Is it burpees are good? Millions of people off the couch. I'm 20 million in debt from COVID. I mean, Joe's got his talking points, and at his level, I think that's what he thinks he needs to do to keep driving the ship is pound. We got to get to the Olympics. And, so it's typically why, I don't have Joe on for those kinds of calls. It's like, I have Joe on when just for a bit of fun, or when, I think, I don't know, sometimes it's good to have him on, but a lot of times it's just like, this is what Joe's going to do. Joe's going to be Joe. So of course, Joe's going to say, this is stupid and tough. I mean, I didn't listen to it. I only heard about it late yesterday, but Ryan wasn't coming anyway. Ryan said to me earlier this year, I've won the thing 7 times. Do I need to do this one again? You know what I mean? I've won it as an individual, as a 2-man team, as a 4-man team, as a co-ed team. I get it. He's kind of done with it. You know what I mean? It's kind of like Matt Fraser and the CrossFit Games. So Ryan was already coming. So if there's some narrative that he's not coming because it's not tough enough, come on. Is that what they were trying to say?
No. I mean, I skimmed through it as well. I think Joe's just taking the opportunity to poke, and I enjoy it. And the fact that, if you see him as an older brother, and you're characterizing some of these kind of talking points as simplistic, it, from a sibling rivalry perspective, it does make it thoroughly entertaining to poke fun of him to that extent. And you'll see at the same time he's removed burpees. We put 31 burpees as a penalty on an obstacle, just to make the point, right? Is it fundamentally changing World's Toughest Mudder? Absolutely not. Is a penalty is going to come? Absolutely not. Does it amuse me greatly? Yes. And am I sorry if it's going to spoil someone's weekend? I mean, a little bit, not very sorry.
I mean, listen, though, the World's Toughest Mudder, I'm going to say best event all year. Haven't missed it. This is my 10th one. The World's Toughest Mudder community, amazing. And the internet's going to internet. So people are always going to be like, that's why I always say when it's over, give it 2 weeks. Don't say best one, worst one, hardest one, easiest one. Give yourself a couple of weeks to settle. The emotions are high. And then we can look back and say, this was my experience. And then as time goes on, you have even more context and perspective around it. But I'm expecting it to be awesome. It's never not, because specifically, regardless of who's in charge, right? And we've had you're the third boss, I guess, that we know, the third CEO. The guys that you put in place to design these things do a fucking bang up job, I think, as you would say. And so, if you want to remember, guys, at one point, there were no pit crews allowed. And then it was, they can come in for part of the day, and there was no team event. And, the event evolves, and you find a way to make it great. I think last year, the big buzz was, well, they didn't build these massive things, so it must not be as good, right? And again, coming off a year where there was no money, I think what Kyle did was fantastic. Like, and he pointed out to me, like, you see that obstacle, like that doesn't cost as much to build, and it's awesome. And it turns out people are skipping these ones that we spend 30 grand to build, or 50, whatever it costs to build these massive structures. I'm not saying never do it again, because clearly we have a big one coming, but then go do the event. Like, oh, well, look, they don't have X, Y, and Z. It's probably going to suck. It's like, actually, it's quite challenging. You know what I mean? It's always the littlest ones that actually mess you up the most. Like, it turns out, like Devil's Beard, like, if you looked at it, oh, it's just a net. It's like, okay, we're using every effing muscle in your body to get under that thing. And about lap number 6, your body is like, are you kidding me?
Yeah, it's always the small things, I think that make the event. Although, as you say, we've got some bigger stuff coming back as well. I think the team have worked really hard on balance as well this year, because we want this to be a number of things, and they're not always. Sometimes they compete. We want this to be a really good, high quality competition. And we've got 7 people who've broken the 100-mile mark turning up this year. We got 5 former champions, Katie and Steph, Trevor, Chris, and Mark, right? We've got a number.
Mark isn't coming. You didn't see that?
When did that happen? Maybe it's 4.
A week ago, he posted that he's had some serious issues going on. I'm actually going to have him on the show. It's a big bummer because he's been training for it, and he obviously wanted to defend. But it's like a serious thing, and I forget what it is. Like, he's okay, but it's a thing. So
how did I miss that? Well, that is
because you're not Mappy Davis, who's on top of everything.
I should call you more, Matt. I should call you more.
You really should.
But I guess the point is, and then we've got a whole bunch of people coming over from Spartan, which I'm really excited to have them in the community. So we have this really quality competition, which I think is going to be epic. I think we have an experience which is going to be genuinely tough. The weather, the obstacles. We've made a lot of changes to obstacles, and some of them are going to be more difficult than the normal counterparts. And that's by design, because the sense of satisfaction people take away from this is directly linked to the difficulty. But then the other point to balance is we need to just make sure that the community experience, the quality of the atmosphere, the camaraderie, the teamwork, all those other elements that are unique are there. And I think the team have done a wonderful job with that, the difficulty to penalty to kind of competition integrity.
Well, yeah, I mean, so we had Nolan and Eli for a long time, and they were phenomenal. And I know that those people have changed over the last couple of years. And then you've got a guy, Chris, who's a multi 75 miler and understands the community and understands like what it takes to be I would say an elite athlete. So I think when I was when Kyle left and when we stopped crying and bawling, we said, okay, what's happening? And he said, well, Giles is taking over and Chris will be in charge of WTM. I'm like, oh, we're good. We're good. Like no Spartan overlords are going in there to mess it up. I do have one question for you, and I have a photo I want to show you. Now, this was sent to me. I can't tell you by who. It's top secret. I have many pictures of my phone. Hang on. Okay. Do you know what this is?
Well, I'm terrified. Like,
do you know what this is?
Yeah, yes, I think so. Like, I'm not entirely sure what that one is.
I Googled this to find this. It wasn't sent to me. What is this going to be an obstacle? Is this something?
I believe so, yes.
You want to describe it to the audience?
No, I really don't.
Is that a jiggle? I'm asking. Is that what that is? A strange cylindrical gooey tube of some kind?
Something that would be difficult to hold in your hand. I think the intent is to make it through like the pitfall obstacle without losing hold of the slippery, difficult to grip object.
but that's for pros and opens, right?
Why not? That's yeah, not so much gamification as just stepping up the challenge a little bit.
Right. Was that Thoreau inspired?
I have no idea where that, the team over the course of the year just get together, they test some stuff out and just have a little bit of a laugh.
Are you not familiar with the My Money Don't Jiggle Jiggle? Are you not familiar with that?
No.
Oh, come.
Is this another one of these classic American pastimes?
No, this is not American. Let's do a little screen share.
Jiggle, jiggle.
Can you remember any of the rap that you did?
My money don't jiggle, jiggle. It folds. I like to see you wiggle, wiggle. For sure. It makes me want to dribble, dribble. You know, riding in my Fiat. You really have to see it. 6'2" in a compact. No,
You don't know this.
I definitely feel like my life is enriched, though. I appreciate that, Chairman.
Do you want to talk about more kind of obstacle type stuff, or you want to just talk about the event as a whole? Like, what else would you like to talk about with you have the world's ear, or at least the world of OCR's ear?
I mean, where to go? Look, I think I would encourage people to read the rules.
Wait, stop it. Stop. Wait, hold on. So to open their email and read it and then show up and actually know, instead of what was it?
After your comment earlier, it does feel like I'm asking a lot. It's just like Giles, he just wants. But the whole year of Infinity, I tell you what, it's just been rules. So if I was on something like this and I didn't plug the rules, my team would kill me. So do us a favor.
All right. So joking aside, let's speak to that. What are people surprised on day of's toughest that they missed? What is it about? Is it about timing, or when they finish, or what are they confused about?
Yeah, I mean, particularly with Infinity this year, the way the cutoff worked with the splits, there was some nuance to that, particularly when there were multiple splits on course. And if you hadn't paid attention, that was an issue. We also, because it was a new format, right? We made some changes, and there's the assumption, I've done Worlds, this is going to be your 10th. I've done it 9 times before. I know the rules. But what if the rules change from the last time you did it? So do us all a favor and read the rules. There should be a little lounge by Race Center. So if you want to go hang out with Chris and Jen and talk about the rules, you're welcome. But do us a favor.
I'm not sure I would call that a lounge. You mean like Race HQ? I don't remember seeing like martinis and couches. It's not a very welcoming place. It's just, hey, what do you need? Okay, cool. Get back out there.
I've been promised a lounge. It's going to be a welcoming place. So what? Speaking about obstacles, I've had this dream.
But honestly, I haven't heard of this. I'm sorry. Maybe I haven't been paying close enough attention. So instead of it just being like the lap didn't count, it was you made it a cutoff point. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. So you had to cross the cutoff point at a specific time. This is Tough Mudder Infinity, not Worlds. But particularly where there were a couple splits, there was some confusion about which split you needed to have cleared. And so a couple people ended up missing splits and, as you can imagine, riots. And we're going to adjust the rules for next year. So we will make it, you just can't go on course at all, as opposed to dealing with the split.
Okay, so these
right, hear me out. I want to throw, I had this dream and the team won't let me do it, Matt. I want to dig a really big pit. Just put everybody in there for the start shoot. Stand up over the edge and just give them the briefing and then be like, go. And they've all just got to like climb their way out to like get to the event. And apparently it messes with the integrity of the race, but I think it would be hilarious and quite a unique way to start an event of this nature.
Yeah, you can call it like the zombie start, or the pit of despair, or I like that a lot.
It's exactly what I'm imagining, just like towers of people trying to get up over the edge to get going.
And there would be like teamwork too. So you get the Mudder ethos in there, like, okay, cool. How are we all going to do this? Right. After they scramble a bit, they'd figure it out. So I think it's great.
It also needs to be, obviously, toilet routine. We're not coming back to talking about your kids, but it's a pretty big question, right? What point do you get to the start? And if you're in the start shoot, can you run if we put everybody in a pit before the start, that becomes a significantly more impactful life decision, I think. No, no
Well, I
nipping
see
out
why you're
for
in
a
charge now.
pre-race nervous wee.
Well, a lot more than that often before the race, but I see why you were put in charge.
Yeah, I certainly, we will be talking about this more into next year. I love this space. We had a number of people over from Spartan into Infinity, actually. And two things happened. One, the Spartan team had a great time. They were like, oh, this is a really quality race, really good competition, just really good fun. And then the other piece, which is even better, was the Tough Mudder people like, oh, these Spartan folks aren't too bad. We like these ladies and gentlemen. We'll keep them. So I hope we'll see a bit more of that at Worlds, and then a bit more as we look to the event calendar next year.
But again, I think the reason you keep both brands when you're Joe is because they are different, and let's celebrate them. And it doesn't mean we can't enjoy them, right? Sometimes I'm in the mood for a pepperoni pizza. Sometimes I would like a cheese pizza. Sometimes I would like mushrooms, right? It's like, it's totally
but not pineapple, right?
No, I'm a big fan of Hawaiian. Hawaiian could be my favorite. Ham and pineapple is delicious. The face he just made, ladies and gentlemen.
Not okay with that.
We can save that argument for later. But that's what's great about it. And it's why, again, I really hope you guys do just move forward with WTM, and Spartans can try it. And if they don't like it, they don't like it. Do want to make something clear though, because when we had this first one back and we realized that it was a little wonky in Atlanta with the carabiners were given out too frequently and too easily, and we don't want to have a uncompetitive balance. So for the next World's Toughest last year in Laughlin, it was okay, cool, fun time. It's mostly going to be for the because there's only 15 women and like 36 men or something like that. I have the list, or it's on the website, right? So it's a select group of people that are like, hey, we are in this for the money. Obviously they're gonna have an amazing time and camaraderie and blah, 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 but we're in this for the money. So there's no way for them to get cheap carabiners. They've got to complete the number of laps, and that's it. You can't eat a hot dog with whatever hot sauce.
We're limiting.
But there does seem to be what I would call "quote unquote" silly penalties, though.
Oh, what do you find a silly penalty?
I mean, should we begin? Should we read go through?
Well, which ones stand out to you?
Well, now I've got to open the bloody rule book.
You haven't read the rules yet, Matt.
No, I have, which is why it's a thing, because I started going through them. Hang on, here we go. Obstacle, penalty, and challenge PDF. Let's see.
First off, to a general point, and I'm actually quite supportive of a number of the changes made on the Spartan side, and that's probably a whole nother conversation. But I think sometimes when we look at it through the lens of elite competition, we miss the point. They're not failing obstacles. The penalties are not relevant. Or at least they shouldn't be, unless the penalties are proper nonsense and they're deliberately choosing not to attempt obstacles to trigger penalties, then this is just largely an irrelevant conversation.
Excuse me? How dare you? How dare you? It's an irrelevant conversation to say that I think some penalties are silly, like croquet.
No, I think
croquet shots aren't silly.
No, the degree of craze that is being generated around how we treat penalties in elite competition, I think we're missing the point. By the time you're into the elites, we should not be triggering penalties. We should not be failing obstacles. I use the word we like I'm an elite, which I clearly am not. I will be staying warm and dry as much as I can through World's Toughest Mudder. And so I think coming at it from that perspective means we've got a little bit more wiggle room to use the penalties for stuff that is challenging but also fun. Remember, we used to just run penalty loops at World's Toughest, as you will remember back in the day, and they were boring. About the same time, actually, we swapped to less boring penalties. About the same time, Spartan started introducing penalty loops into their competition.
Well, it was loops or it was carrying a cinder block on a loop, or it was crawling up a really long uphill barbed wire thing. Like they were work. They were definitely like work related.
I'm not saying they weren't challenging, just saying they were boring.
So most of the elites will complete obstacles. Okay. Most of them will. That's why they're the elites. It is a 24-hour race. Things do get wet. And you also are allowed to like make a mistake and perhaps your hand slips, right?
Of course.
So I don't think it's moot to say that making them wear dizzy glasses is, I think, a little bit silly. I'm allowed to have that opinion.
You are. A little bit of silliness is also part of the brand, though, is it not?
It
You know,
is.
we are
and
irreverent.
I think,
and
but I
fun.
think I hear what you're saying, though. It's like they're not going to be doing them for the whole time. They're going to be passing most of them. I do see that point. I can concede that.
I think that the silliness in the penalty, or our feeling is that some of the silliness, they're still challenging penalties, but they're also fun. There's some of the stuff that you talk about that makes it iconic. It's a much bigger part of the open categories like experience over the weekend. We don't feel that the penalties here compromise the integrity of the elite race at all. And that's the point. We've been quite thoughtful about mandatory obstacles versus other obstacles, and we've been thoughtful about which obstacles we've put penalties on, again being more mindful about where are we more likely to have failures.
Alrighty, that was Giles. I really, really look forward to seeing a bunch of you. Please come up to me and say hello and stop and shake my hand, or just scream as you go by World's Toughest, like on a lap. Hey, Mappy Davis. I love that just as much. Love you, miss you, mean it. I've got to run.